What's up? Here's your goal for today. I can solve equations and inequalities involving absolute value. So as you're filling in the goal at the top, your I can statement, that's what this looks like. We're going to look at this key concept. I'm sure you know a little bit about absolute value. Absolute value essentially is in regard to distance from zero. We think of absolute value means distance from zero. So distance is always positive. I'm not going to say I'm going to walk negative 5 feet across the room, or I'm going to travel negative 12 miles from my house to my friend's house, or something like that. Distance is always positive. So absolute value means the distance from zero. Even if you're going in a negative direction on a number line, that distance is still positive. So if you can remember that, that's helpful. Examples that we're looking at here are there's a brief introduction of absolute value equations to get a feel for how it works, and then we're going to apply it to inequalities as well, which is kind of the main topic of discussion. So I'm looking at example 1, solving an absolute value equation. What are the solutions of x plus 2? Sorry, absolute value of x plus 2 equals 9. Graph and check. So x plus 2 equals 9. So I'm actually going to solve this just like I would a similar equation if the absolute value bars were not there. So very simple. There's addition, which means I should be subtracting 2 from both sides. I do that, I get absolute value of x equals 7. Not a very good looking x there. And again, anything that goes in here, the bars are going to make it positive. So I can put positive x in, positive 7 in there. Bars make it positive. Or I can put negative 7 in there. So long and short of it is x equals plus or minus 7. It can be positive or negative. Either one of those will go in there. The bars make it positive, and I have my solution. Okay? I'm going to assume here. So here's what you should do. Pause the video, do the next one on your own, and then come back and check with me in a second. Let me clean up something first before we go on with regard to the first example part. So your x plus or minus 7, it also said to graph the solution. Okay, so I graph that just by plotting the points. So there is no shading going on in between. I know it's a little bit small and it's hard to see, but there is no shading going on between these values. I simply have, it's not an interval of values, it's just 7 and just negative 7 are the only two solutions. So I have a closed dot on negative 7, I have a closed dot on positive 7, and that's it. So using that, here's what I have for the next problem. I should be adding 5 to both sides. That gives me the absolute value of n equals 3. And then dropping the bars means I can have either positive or negative 3 as a solution. Positive 3 goes in there, obviously it comes out of the bars positive. Negative 3 goes in there, comes out of the bars positive. So either way I have negative plus or minus 3. For my solution. Graphing that, again, on the number line, a dot, closed dot on negative 3, closed dot on positive 3, and that's how I graph my solution for those. Okay? Assuming you have no questions, if you do, you have the benefit of being able to rewind this and go back. Do that if you need to. Otherwise, we're going to move on to problem 2. Starting from 100 feet away, your friend skates toward you and then passes by you. She skates at a constant speed of 20 feet per second. Her distance d from you in feet after t seconds is given by d equals the square root of 100 minus 20t. At what times is she 40 feet from you? So this is going to occur in 2 locations. So you understand that you're skating in opposite directions. You're skating toward each other. So there's a point where you're coming at each other and she's 40 feet away, and then after you pass, she's 40 feet away again. So we're looking at those 2 possibilities. Okay? So in terms of solving this, here's what we do. Take the original absolute value equation that they give me and substitute 40 for d, because 40 is the distance that she is from me. So 40 equals, trying to write a little bit bigger so you can see it. It's really difficult for me to do. Absolute value of 100 minus 2t, 20t, sorry. 100 minus 20t. Okay, so here's typically what I do with this. I'm going to drop the bars I'm going to rewrite, I'm going to branch this off and rewrite the equation twice with a different solution on each side. So I'm going to go this way and write the first solution exactly as it appears, dropping the bars. And I'm going to, here's what I mean by branch out, write the opposite solution on the other side. In other words, the opposite answer. So negative 40 equals 100 minus 20t. And what that is going to do for me is give me my two possible ways, or two possible distances that, or two possible times that she's going to be 40 feet away from me. So I'm simply going to solve each of these individually. I'm going to start by subtracting 100 from both sides. That's going to give me negative 60 over here equals negative 20t. I divide both sides by negative 20. And that gives me t equals 3. So at 3 seconds, and then likewise I'm going to solve this one. Same steps. Subtract by 100. Now this is going to be different on the left. This is negative 140 now. This is gone, negative 20t. Divide both sides by negative 20. And that gives me t equals 7. So if I start the clock, and we're skating toward each other. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. At 3, we're 40 feet away. 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi. At 7 Mississippi, we're 40 feet away again after we have crossed each other. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Again, if you need to rewind and play that back, please be my guest. Otherwise, there is the work for that. And that's the basic premise of solving absolute value equations. I'm going to take whatever is in the bars, okay? Take the bars away, rewrite the equation twice. Once, exactly as it appears, without the bars. The other way is that whatever's in the bars stays the same, the opposite side of the equal sign becomes the opposite, in this case negative. And then I solve both, and those are my two solutions. So again, if you need a minute to go back and review that, please do so. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next part, which is you doing the absolute value of 3x minus 1 equals 8. Please solve that on your own. Come back to me in a second when you have that. So please pause the video, work that out, and then check it when you're done. Okay, so again, the idea here is I'm going to take the equation, drop the bars, rewrite it exactly the way that it appears. 3x minus 1 equals 8. Add 1 to both sides. That gives me 3x equals 9. Divide both sides by 3. That gives me x equals 3. That's one solution. I can check that mentally. Put the 3 back in there. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 minus 1 is 8. Absolute value of 8 is 8. Works. The other way is take what is under the bars, or inside the bars rather, rewrite that, make it the opposite on the other side. So negative 8 is on the other side. Still add 1 to both sides. That gives me 3x on the left, but it gives me negative 7 on the right. Then I'm going to divide by 3. That gives me x equals negative 7 thirds. Substitute that back in. Negative 7 thirds times 3 is negative 7. Negative 7 minus 1 is negative 8. The absolute value of negative 8 is positive 8, so that also works as a solution. This is how you solve these types of equations, absolute value equations. Set one side is, write it the first way exactly the way that it appears. The other way is with the opposite on the other side, solve both sides, and you have your pair of solutions. Okay? So, moving on to problem 3. Absolute value equations with no solution. Here's what we have. So, what are the solutions of this situation? Here's the idea. The idea is, whenever I have something like this, I want to move all of the stuff possible to the other side of the equal sign except what is inside the absolute value bars. I want, so sort of like isolating the variable, move everything away from the variable, same concept. Just different procedure in terms of what it looks like. So here's what I mean. 3 bars, 2z plus 9, bar, plus 12 equals 10. Okay, so I am not going to branch this right now, and do this whole thing, blah, 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 and then this whole thing equals negative 10. I have to take care of some preliminary steps first, and that is I can only branch once I have just the absolute value bars on one side of the equal sign. So the first thing I'm going to do here, again, inverse operations, let's pretend that whatever is inside the bar is its own variable. Like let's pretend it's the letter x or something like that. So the first thing I would do is subtract 12 from both sides. Okay, and that's going to give me 3 absolute value of 2z plus 9 equals negative 2. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 3 to get that out of there so that, again, I just have the bars on this side. 2z plus 9 equals negative 2/3. With me so far? If you're not sure, rewind and go back. At this point, I can branch. So what I'm going to have here is write the first one exactly the way that it appears. 2z plus 9, actually you should notice something. Let me stop right there. Under normal circumstances I would branch, but here's the thing. What is absolute value? The distance from 0. Absolute value is always positive. Here I have a situation where it's saying the absolute value of something equals a negative. That's not possible. So right now, as soon as you recognize I have bars on one side, negative value on the other side, this is no solution. There is no solution for z that would make this situation true. Okay? So again, bars equals negative can't happen. Cannot happen. You know that it's no solution right away. Okay? So that being said, please try the next one. I'm betting that it's going to be no solution, but I want to make sure that you can do all of the preliminary work first. So please try that one on your own. Pause the video, come back when you have it so that you can check. So here's what you have. Again, you start with the absolute value of 3x minus 6 minus 5 equals negative 7. Again, the idea is, now if there were positives on the other side, I would be able to solve this doing the same steps. But the goal first is move everything away from the bars, get it to the other side so that you can work from there and potentially branch out. Here I can't do that. I mean, I can do that, but I'm not going to have to branch because adding 5 to both sides, awesome. Adding 5 to both sides gives you negative 2 over here, which means I have something coming out of an absolute value equation equaling a negative. So again, I have no solution just like I did before. All right, hopefully that makes sense to you. What we're going to do, especially because I'm not here and because today's a shortened schedule, we're going to break this lesson in half. You're only responsible for the equations. We're not going to do the inequalities yet. You're just responsible for the equations. So as long as you understand this, great. You're ready to move on. Let me give you the problems that I want you to work on. So you'll notice on the back page of your packet it says page 211 and has a whole bunch. All I want you to do is 9 through 31 odd. Page 211. 9 through 31 odd is what you are doing right now. Okay? Please take this seriously. I get the impression that, I don't know what the impression is. To be honest with you, in closing here, now that I have your attention, the highest grade in the class is like a low B right now, 80 something. You're better than that. Your focus and attitude needs to be better. Stop playing around. It's just immaturity. So I don't know how I can help you with that, how I can stress that, there's a time and a place for it, and it's not during instruction. It's not during learning. So please do your best on these problems, and I'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk about these and move on to inequalities. Okay? Have a great day. Go Chieftains.